I've taken it once, I've taken it twice, I've taken it 3 times, I've taken it 4 times. So
4 times.
Anywhere in between there, it's relatable and letting you know that you can be here.
I love that. Welcome in with your Wakanda RN. Glad you guys are here today. So we got a special guest with us today. We have Kevin Gibson, the boot nurse. What's up, Kevin? What's going on, man?
What's going on, man? I appreciate you reaching out and wanting me to do this podcast with you, bro. I always enjoy these. They're fun, really kind of stir up some conversation, and hopefully, we'll be able to give the people what they want.
So I'm pretty excited, man. So Kevin, just real quick, tell us what you do, man. What do you do for a living?
Well, right now I am a registered nurse. I've been a registered nurse for almost 5 years. I've worked in ICU. I've worked in the PACU, the recovery room for those that don't know what that is. And I also worked in the operating room as a circulating nurse. I was also in the Navy. I'm a military veteran of 16 and a half years. I've done a bunch of other things, within my military career. So I'm a veteran now, enjoying that freedom that I got. But as of right now, I use my nursing license to help nursing students and graduates prepare for their NCLEX exam. And the NCLEX exam is the licensure exam to allow registered nurses and practical nurses to practice nursing in hospitals and in places of care.
All right. So, yes, what made you want to coach students?
Well, I actually was on the lower end of those individuals who was very unsuccessful at taking the NCLEX exam. I actually am a NCLEX test failure or a licensure failure because I was unsuccessful at passing the exam, not to my first time or second time or third time. I actually passed my exam on my 4th attempt to, finally call myself a registered nurse. So I always said to myself, I never wanted people to feel how I felt. Like they were a disappointment, they were a failure, that they'll never be able to conquer this goal. And I decided to take my testimony and to show everyone that you can do this if you pick yourself up, dust yourself off, go back to the drawing board, audit yourself, and do better next time as you go forth. So that's the reason why I decided to pursue this aspect of nursing.
Okay. So 4 times.
4 times.
So
4 times.
So what made you persevere 4 times? Because a lot of people, they stop after the second, especially the 3rd time. Like, what made you persevere to the 4th time?
I kind of tailor it back to my military service. I was a hospital corpsman in the Navy, and we work with the Marines, and we work with other branches of service, doing the medical side of the house. And one of the things that we always say is never leave anybody behind. Mm-hmm. But then we also are those individuals to really just push one another, because if you have a weak link in the chain, the whole chain can break. I had those really great mentors that told me, hey, how much does this cost for you? Think about all the time, which you can't get back, all the time that you spent on trying to achieve this goal. Do you want to waste this marathon, or do you want to finish this marathon strong? Do you want to be able to audit yourself to see what you did wrong so you can do it better and then eventually conquer that goal? So the perseverance, the steadfast in doing something, even though, delaying of the achieving that goal, that's the whole point. So I, really just had to think to myself, what do I really want to do? Do I want to stay where I am, or do I want to progress? I like to call that getting off the beach. So I can either stay on the beach where I'm not going to progress, or I can look the world in the face while hellfire and brimstone is just being thrown at me, but I'm still making progress as I'm moving forward. It's really like the military aspect, man. It's like, we don't quit around here. I don't quit around here, and you're not going to quit around me.
So what made you join the military? What made you pick the Navy branch specifically?
Because the Air Force wouldn't take me.
Okay.
No, but seriously, I walked into the Air Force recruiters, and it was some pregnant lady that was in there who, I don't know what was going on with her. She said some really rude things to me, and then I left. A couple weeks later, I got a phone call from the Navy. I went up there, talked to them. I had just got finished watching Top Gun, so I said I want to go on an aircraft carrier, just like everybody else, right? But I realized I didn't have any direction. I was 19. I didn't have any direction on what I wanted to do. I may be dating myself, but MTV and VH1 and spring break and summertime, that was that time that I really realized that I wasn't prepared for the world as I thought I was. Mm-hmm. And, that was my very first experience to realize that college, depending on what you're going to school for, but the majority of it, college is a scam. And so, I went to the recruiter, they laid out everything. I was there for a long time. I sat on that. I talked to my dad's friend, and he said, just try it. And I was like, okay. And so I did. I ended up joining the Navy, ended up getting the job as a hospital corpsman, which is the medical side of the house for both the Navy and the Marine Corps. And one of the best decisions I ever made.
So I want to touch back on something you said. I mean, of course, I want to dig a little bit deeper into your naval background. Yeah. But you said college is a scam. Why, or what makes you say that?
So hindsight's 2020. That's me saying, almost 20 years ago that, college is a scam. But depending on what you're going to college for, you don't need college for it. I had no idea what I was doing while I was in school. I was just there because I was told I had to be there. I was told you got to take out loans in order for you to go to this school. But they didn't really, really jump in and say, hey, why don't you just do a trade, something like plumbing or landscaping or, carpentry or roofing, those things that really do make our world go round. And I wanted to do psychology. Nothing wrong with that. But I didn't know that even now to this day, it's like you can't do anything with psychology until you have a master's degree. And then how many people change their majors while they're in college? At least 3 times. At least 3 times. Right. And so I went from, psychology to wanting to be an anesthesiologist to wanting to be a nutritionist, wanting to be a dentist. I wanted to be an astronaut at one point, and then
everything, man.
The kid in me was just living it up, bro. But, I finally settled on nursing because I realized as I was working in the Navy as a corpsman, I realized that at least the doctors that I was around, they forgot that people were people and nursing is patient driven. And I'm a very people person. And I realized I wanted to make a difference in somebody's life, especially to my fellow brothers and sisters in arms and veterans, working in military hospitals. And so that was my direction on wanting to go nursing. So you got to go to college. You got to go to nursing school, which is college, which is university degree, in order for you to work as a nurse. But let me backtrack. You don't have to go to college per se, but you do have to be into an accredited program as an LPN and an ADN and BSN. Because I know that if I didn't say that, people were going to come for me. And I don't need y'all coming for me because y'all know that I ain't got no
stay off Kev, man. Y'all gotta stay off Kev, man. Y'all be giving me a hard time as it is. Y'all gotta stay off Kev, man.
You already know I ain't the one because I will come for you. Oh my!
I got you. I got you. I was gonna piggyback real quick. I was one of those people that changed their major. Listen, initially I wanted to be a physical therapist. That was my first major until my grandpa, who retired from the Army and chose nursing as his second career, and he talked me into changing my major. And so, there's sometimes I'm like, dang it, why did he talk me out of it? But
it's the security.
It is, and that's what he preached to me as well. He did preach that to me as well.
It's definitely the security. My dad kind of said the same thing. They come from a different era. They come from the industrial side of life to where, get a good job, get in with a good company, work there for 20, 30, 40 years, get a pension, get a retirement, go on about your merry way. And nursing from the beginning now and until the very end, you will always be needed. Always. No AI, no robot will ever replace a human. It won't. Sorry for whatever y'all are thinking. The fear mongering. But
sorry, y'all.
But yeah, like a lot of the older our generations before us, Generation X and and the baby boomers, they all say the same thing.
Yeah. So I also wanted to kind of ask too. So your naval experience. You spent how many years? How many years did you say?
16 and a half.
16 and a half years. How far did you go in rank?
I made it all the way up to E6 in the Navy. That's what we call a petty officer first class. So I was right below E7, was working my way towards that. But then I had a lot happen in life, a lot of life-altering experiences that hit me literally all at once. And I realized to myself that I didn't like the direction that the military was going. It wasn't the military that I grew up on because I joined during a time of war and we weren't at war. And when you know that you're done, you're done.
Okay, so it's kind of like I hear about this like athletes in retirement. They said sometimes you don't know until like literally you wake up one day, you're like, hey, I can't do this no more. Yeah. Was it kind of similar to that or what?
Yes, exactly like that. Like I did 14 years on active duty, and then I did 2.5 on the reserve side. When I woke up when I was on active duty, I literally said I went to work and I was just like, I have an aversion to this place. I have an aversion to this uniform, a uniform that I spent almost my entire adult life in.
Wow.
I was just like, you know what? I think I'm done.
That sounds, my bad. Go ahead.
No, you're good. This is like, I think I'm done. And I told my supervisor about it and she looked me in my face and she was just like, okay, because she knew, she could see it and she was ready to retire. So I think that's why she knew the face I was giving her, because it's the same face that she had essentially been giving me and everybody else in leadership for quite some time, saying that she's ready to retire, she's ready to go. And so when I said that, I was just like, all right, cool. What do I need to do? What are my papers? So on and so forth. And I made that happen. So that was all she wrote, and it's a mental thing. It really is a mental thing. Never, ever, ever, ever stay anywhere that is going to destroy your mental health. And that's what it was doing to me. And so I made the adult decision for me to say, you know what? I'm done. I'm good. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah. So if you're listening, you heard what he said. If you are in a place, your mental health is rapidly declining, get out. like the movie, you need to get out.
Yep. Do not
quickly.
pass go.
Yes. So if you hear that, get up out of there. So what you're saying kind of sounds a little bit like burnout.
Oh, definitely.
It sounds like burnout. And there's a term that we typically hear, not just within healthcare, but especially within healthcare, you hear the term burnout.
Yeah.
So why do you think burnout is as prevalent in healthcare as it is today?
Man, that's a good question. Burnout is prevalent because of the lack of nurses in the profession. So when you have a lack of and an abundance of those who need help, but not enough to take care of them, the individuals that are not enough, meaning the scarcity of nursing, they get doubled and tripled and quadrupled up when it comes to patient load or, just work in general. And then, you have people in leadership that are just like, hey, it's okay. This is only temporary. Make it happen. Or, this is just the way that it is. Sorry, that's not the way that it is. And then when you have people that are brand new that come into a profession that used to be on average 3 to 5 years before they transferred, then went to 9 to 18 months, now 3 to 6 months, that's a problem.
That's a problem.
That's a problem. So burnout is contributed to underpaid, very much overworked, lack of training, the shortness of these residency programs, the pipelining from the beginning of schools, because not all schools are created equally, all the way up to the administrators that care about the bottom line and care about care about the bottom line rather than the people that work in the hospital.
That's good tips right there. Let me ask you, so how would you compare and contrast from your roles and duties within the military compared to your roles and duties that you face working on the floor? Just a few examples to kind of help in terms of, leadership styles, like a compare and contrast, like leadership styles, and then, being properly manned, so to speak, compared to being undermanned. Can you talk about like a compare and contrast for a couple of those things compared to healthcare and in the military life?
Yeah. So let me just make this disclaimer right now, is that both military and civilian hospitals, they're both corporations and they both are ran similarly, but differently. So one thing I noticed about military is that when it comes to training is that you have a lot more time. Things go a little bit slower because of how the systems and processes are in the military, or at least on the government side of the house. Now, when it comes to the civilian side, like your HCAs, said it out loud. And, your other hospitals like, was it Advent or Baylor Scott and White or Shands or Baptist or whomever, it's all about, hey, how fast can we churn you out to get you onto the floor? Everybody's like, oh, we're going to train you properly. We're going to give you the resources, AKA we're going to get you through the bare minimum. And then, when you get put in situations that you may not be able to handle, you may have resources to help you, you may not. So when it comes to the leadership aspect, is in most hospitals, military treatment facilities, they're ran by, military leadership. They're ran by officers or senior enlisted. So it's the lifestyle of how military is, where there's a hierarchy, there's a respect for the people that are in those positions, because the majority of the people that get in those positions have earned them. Not all of them. Just because you have the rank doesn't mean that you're a leader. I'm telling you that right now. The majority of them, it is like, it's the hierarchy of how the ranks work. And, there's people that are in the hospitals, the civilian hospitals that I've seen one that was she was our director, never knew anything about critical care, but they don't care about you knowing anything about critical care. They're just like, oh, well, you have a manager who does critical care, so make sure that they do what they're supposed to do. And I'm just like, how does that work? You know, how does that work? So at least on the military side of the house, there's a lot more structure on the military side of the house, whether you want to believe it or not, than there is on the civilian side. I've never seen so much turnover happen ever until I became a civilian.
So, you know, in terms of the proper structure, so what can somebody, let's say, well, let me say this first before I ask that question. I think you would probably agree with this. We have people that are in leadership positions and management positions in the civilian side in terms of, you know, administrators, CEOs, etc. People have no idea, no medical background whatsoever, and yet they are in these leadership positions. You know, so I would say that would probably be one of the biggest differences, probably for sure, because compared to the military life, right. I would definitely say. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because we see that very often, and I would think if you had more people that were in healthcare, you know, that had prior positions, I think healthcare would be ran better. But you know, it's all about the bottom dollar.
Of course, you know, like, and I can speak for military hospitals, specifically Navy hospitals. I've never been stationed inside of an Army or an Air Force hospital, but Navy hospitals, all those hospitals were ran by somebody medically. So for example, of course, you know, we have our commanding officer, AKA the CEO of a hospital, was a doctor of some sort, was a surgeon of some sort. They may not have been practicing for quite some time, but they at least have the aspects of working as a physician or as a nurse who is the commanding officer of this, you know, this $1 billion structure that we have going on inside the hospital. That's the biggest thing versus you go to the CEOs of these hospitals that are here. They're just like, yeah, I've never done anything healthcare. You know, I have a doctorate in masters. Oh, I'm sorry, I have a doctorate in business administration and in healthcare administration, but I've never done anything medical. And I'm just like, then how can you even understand what somebody at my level goes through on a day-to-day basis? Unless you were like, yeah, I was a tech, you know, 20 years ago. I'll be like, oh, okay.
20.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Just, you know, just throw a number out there. But, you know, so in your opinion, is it harder to take discipline and correction from, you know, working for civilian hospitals compared to that structure in a military life?
Oh, yeah.
You laugh a little bit.
I laugh because, you know, I when I was working as a nurse, you know, I was still in a leadership position in the reserves, you know, where I was in charge of a whole unit of people. And so for me to go to military, to go to, you know, a hospital and you know, some older nurse talking to me like they lost their mind didn't really go well for them. And I'm not saying this to be a jerk, but you know,
right.
Tone is everything, and especially tone is everything. And I have an educational background. I've been an instructor since 2015, so I've been teaching since 2015. And so when I go into a place where I'm like, why is the training like this, or why is this preceptor just like, yeah, just do this, just do that? And I'm like, and I call people out on it. And then when I start asking questions, then that's when they get defensive. And then, you know, when they get defensive, they take it as something personal. I'm just like, no, I'm just asking you. But then when people start talking to me like, well, you're supposed to do this, well, you're supposed to do that. Hey, are you listening to me? Hey, pay attention. And I'm just like, first of all, I'm not your son and I'm not your husband. So I'm gonna need you to check your tone. That's number one. All right. Number two, I'm asking you and I'm trying to get clarification and you have done nothing but belittle me. You know, that's where that nurses eat their young nonsense comes from. And I said from day one that it will not happen around me and you will not do it to me. And then when people tried it, then I'm the angry one.
So it sounds like, and I'm sure you agree with this, that nursing has a culture problem.
Oh, 100%.
It has a culture problem. Where do you think this originated from and why is it as bad as it is culture-wise?
Man, it really could stem from anything. But what I'm really thinking of is the autonomy that nurses didn't have. And it's the doctor nurse like interaction, because I'm a doctor, I have a degree, I'm a medical doctor, you're just a nurse. You don't know what I know. And so there's that, you know, that ego issue. That's what it is. It's an ego issue. That's where it started. That's where I think it started. Do I know? Somebody can fact check me. You guys can check that out. Drop it in the comments. Y'all let us know. But it's an ego thing. I know more than you do. Then rather than trying to help somebody, you know, you want to belittle them all because of your ego. But so to answer your question, do I know where it started? No, but my thought process makes me think it's the ego aspect that started between doctors and nurses. And then as nurses start to get more autonomy as we start to go along, that ego thought process that now the nurses have it towards the other nurses, towards the younger nurses, right? And social media can play a part of that too. It's like, girl, all you're here for is just a bag and to look cute in skirts or cute in scrubs. And
man.
you're trying to find baby daddy, neurologists. Yep. And I'm just boy. It's different for us men that are in nursing because we're just like,
that's the truth.
That's not what I'm here for.
Nah, not at all. And it seems strange because a lot of places, a lot of hospitals, long-term care facilities, they just let this happen.
Yeah.
This type of culture is prevalent. It just runs rampant. There's no true, discipline system, or they don't even try to discipline the people that do this type of behavior. And a lot of it, and you can chime in too, I believe is due to maybe a shortage in the workplace, or maybe they have this longevity. They don't want to get rid of this particular nurse because maybe they're older, but they're dependable. They'll show up no matter what. They'll come in no matter what. A lot of that generation that's embedded within them, it seems like they'll just come in. Yeah. So, but what do you think about that? In terms of like management don't want to do anything with these particular nurses.
You're right. Management they don't want to do anything with them is because they would rather have, a sour apple in the bunch than not have that apple at all because of the need for help in that unit. They were like, I don't care if he's sour. I don't care if she's sour. They're like, we need them there no matter how detrimental that they could be. I've seen some people do I'm just like, how are you even here?
Yeah.
And then I'm just, I'll go say something. I'm just like, hey, so here's the note. I'm going to tell you notes that I took. And in the military, if I see it, I start at the lowest level. I confront that person. When I did that, when I became a civilian, that's not invasion of privacy, but it was more of like, you don't tell people about that. You go tell leadership about it. And I'm like, what? Like, if he could fix it at this level, I don't got to tell them.
Right.
And so that's another thing that was just opposite. It's just no one ever comes to you to say anything to you about it. They always go to leadership, and here come leadership telling you about it. And then it's just it's new, and you're just, or it's right out of left field, and you're just like, no one ever told me that before.
Nope.
Like if somebody would have, the people that are with me, aka my preceptor or the charge nurse that's there, if they tell me, then I can correct it. Then you don't even need to know.
Yes.
But that's not how they do things. They go straight to the top, like a gang thing. Like I don't want them there. Yeah. So they'll do whatever that they have to do. I felt that. It's happened to me twice. So.
I've noticed, especially when I used to work for a veteran center, they're really big on the chain of command. You got to follow the chain of command. And so I would take that practice and try to apply it to other facilities. They're like, they don't follow, they don't do that at all. They just go to whoever they can. Because a lot of places, people will skip that chain of command, especially if they're buddy with somebody on top. They will just go to them for any issue whatsoever. The issue could be minor. Maybe it's something worth reporting. Maybe it's not. But if you causing that person any type of inconvenience, then they'll just like run to whoever that top person is and try to get you in trouble.
I've heard people say, I know the CEO. So I'll just go straight to them. And they literally would text him or go to his office. Yeah. And then next, here he comes into the operating room and like, what is he doing in here? To me, in my thought process, that's like, somebody who was like this little E1 in the military going straight to the commanding officer's office. You would never do that. And if it got found out, that, okay. So, but it's just like, it was such a culture shock for me, which honestly, like, didn't help my transition when I became a civilian either. And so it's just, one of those things that I had to realize that this is how the civilian world is. I was out of my protective, but I was out of my time capsule. I was out of that bubble of, military service to where it's just like, hey, here's the rest of the world. This is how they operate.
Imagine, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, would it be harder if I came from a place of structure and then I go to a place that doesn't have structure versus, you're kind of blind to healthcare. You don't know what you don't know. True. And then so you just get into the culture, you're not really aware that it's toxic environment. You just deal with it on a daily basis. I mean, in my mind, I think it'd be harder if I came from a place of structure, just like military life, and then I come into civilian life and I got to deal with all this other toxic mess that goes on within healthcare.
It was a very hard transition from 2021 when I initially got off active duty, from 2021 all the way, honestly, till the summer of 2024. It was quite a challenge.
So you said 2021?
Yeah,
Oh man.
2021 to 2024 was quite a mental challenge for me. And a lot of people go through it. That's why they tell you to don't suffer in silence. You know, if there's mental things that are going on, you know, open your mouth and say something. And luckily for me, you know, I was one of those people that I was very open about, you know, telling, you know, my brothers and sisters in arms, I tell them that I love them. If they need anything, let me know. Or, hey, there's always help out here. Don't be one of those individuals to, you know, try to, you know, create a permanent solution to a temporary problem. And like I said, when I became a civilian, I was just like, here we go.
Right.
Here we go.
Right. So man, let's shift gears just a little bit. Let's talk about your NCLEX coach content.
Yeah.
So kind of give an overview of how that works. Do you have like, you know, tutoring sessions? Do you have live sessions? Like, give us like a brief overview of what do you do in terms of being the NCLEX coach?
Yeah. So, you know, the NCLEX coaching, you know, it stemmed from, you know, my lack of that. I started to understand and, you know, really kind of create a curriculum for it. And the step on essentially, you know, how to get you from point A to point B. And they are honestly the steps that I went through and the steps that a lot of people, you know, go through as well to, you know, to do something that they feel that they can't do. So it starts by, you know, most people will find me on social media or they'll find me via email or YouTube or something along the lines of that. What they'll do is they'll go to my website, they'll fill out a questionnaire so I can know a little bit about them, you know, such as how many times you've taken the exam, you know, what state do you live in, you know, what issues do you have? Is it NCLEX style questions? Is it content? Did your school provide you a review? You know, things such as that. And then once you finish your questionnaire, you know, you'll be able to get access to my website and get emails to where you can schedule a call with me. And then we can actually, you know, get on the phone and talk and, you know, see like what your issue specifically is. I've been coaching for 5 years specifically for NCLEX, and I've been, you know, learning NCLEX for the last 7 or 8 years. So I've heard it all. And I was a part of that because it was my own personal struggle. So yeah, that's essentially like how it goes. And then once they get on a call with me, you know, we determine whether or not if coaching is, you know, the right fit for them, because this is a relationship. You have to be able to be coachable, but I also have the responsibility and the accountability to you to get you from point A to point B without all the noise and all the fluff that's out there. And once we decide that, then we can jump into the coaching. If not, then hey, you don't have to jump into it. But the coaching is 30 days, 45 days at the max. Within the first 2 weeks of working with me, you will see an improvement in whatever scores that you have. It doesn't matter what review that you're using, you know, if it's, you know, the big ones like Archer, Simple Nursing, Wrld, and such. If you listen to the strategies and the structures of how you can really, you know, improve your scores, you will see an improvement on your scores. And if there's not an improvement of your scores, then that's a you problem. And we need to figure out what you aren't doing.
I like that. So Kevin, tell me, what separates you as an NCLEX coach, as an NCLEX nurse for your NCLEX content compared to other creators? Why should people come to you specifically? Can you kind of give us some answer to that?
Yeah, I'm relatable.
Okay.
What person do you know that's out here that actively tells you that they were unsuccessful? Who tells you that?
Not many.
And let's hone it down some more. When people fail their NCLEX, who openly talks about that? Nobody. What do they do? Well, how many videos do you see out here? Yeah, girl, I passed my NCLEX, 85 questions. I'm going to show y'all how. Okay, yes. But what about for the people that didn't pass the NCLEX? Then what? What about them?
Right.
You know what the passing rate was for 2024? 91%. Okay. And that's incredible. That's great. That's exactly what we want. But you notice how I said it wasn't 100%.
It's not.
Where are the other 9 at?
They need help.
Those are the ones I want.
I love
those are the ones I want. Just like, you know, and I may be messing this up a little bit, and I know somebody's going to come for me in the comments, and that's okay. I'm for it. But just like, you know, how Jesus leaves his 99. The shepherd leaves his 99 to go find his one that is not on the mountain. You want to know why? Because those other 99 are okay, and they ain't going nowhere. But where that other one that's being led astray? Hey, come on now, let's go. And that's and that's what I feel like, at least at this season, in this time in my life, that my purpose is to help as many people pass that exam on their first or their next attempt, period. There's no ifs, ands, no buts in between there. But, you know, to circle back to answer your question is that I actively tell people that I was unsuccessful and what I did to become successful. So I'm relatable. I've taken it once. I've taken it twice. I've taken it 3 times. I've taken it 4 times. So anywhere in between there, it's, you know, it's relatable and letting you know that you can be here.
I love that. I love the answer, and I don't care what the comments say. I do love that. I do love the fact that you are unashamed to proclaim your faith. I love that.
I will say it right here. I will say that Jesus Christ is my Lord and He is my Savior. He is the way, He is the truth, and He is the life, and no one can get to the Father except through Him. And believe me, I have salvation, and He has touched me, and I will see the Father. Believe me, and I'm saying that with all of my being. In Jesus' name, Amen.
I love that. Absolutely love that. So I love the relatability aspect because, I mean, people can post content. People can post content. They can brag about how great they are. But I feel like the vulnerability creates that relatability.
Absolutely.
I feel that. I feel like it helps to be relatable. And yeah, people may care about the 91%, but that 9% matters. Yeah. That 9% absolutely matters. And I feel like you help meet that need.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
You know, I've gotten so much hate in the comments before. They were just like, they don't deserve to be nurses. I was just like, they were just like, in my opinion, they shouldn't be a nurse. And I was like, well, it's a good thing I didn't ask you about your opinion.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you wouldn't know that they were unsuccessful unless they used their vulnerabilities to tell you that they were unsuccessful. Now, guess what? That is true. You running your mouth about whatever, they're out there still living their life. And there is a test and a testimony, right? So I failed 4 or 5 times. I just helped a young lady who failed her NCLEX, I believed she passed her NCLEX on her 5th attempt, thinking that she couldn't do it. And she was just like, you're so relatable. It is unreal. I didn't think that anybody like you ever existed, because no one wants to be vulnerable. No one wants to seem weak in front of people that they don't know.
No,
but
not at all.
You can really test yourself and see what people are really about you when you are vulnerable with them.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with that. I do appreciate you taking the time to answer that. Yeah. So do you have like a workbook, or do you have anything like any written material like that, or online material? Like what material do you have?
Yeah, I actually have a few things. The very first thing that I do have is I actually wrote a book. I am a published author. I wrote a book. It's called Conquer It: The Journey to Passing the NCLEX. It talks about my struggles that I had while I was studying and preparing for the NCLEX, and then strategies on how you, as the test taker, can pass your NCLEX on your first or on your next attempt. So that's the very first thing that I have. It's my published book. They can find it on Amazon, or they can go to my website, thebootnurse.com/conqueritbooks. And, you can go over there and you can get it. I also got some bonuses over there for those that want to check those out, for those that support the book. So nextly, I do have a course. It's called the 7-Day NCLEX course. And the premise behind the 7 days is that within 7 days, you'll be able to understand the concepts of knowing how to break down NCLEX style questions. Inside of the 7-Day NCLEX course is a 12-hour NCLEX review along with content. There are 90 videos, well over hundreds of hours of content review, as well as the NCLEX review itself. And then lastly, of course, I have my NCLEX coaching and mentoring program, which is where we do one-on-one call sessions, kind of like how this podcast is going, but, it's just me and another student. Right. And, we break down, where your issues are. We come up with a strategy for you. We talk about your time management. We do micro adjustments where they're needed. You would get access to me via phone number or via, whatever communication apps that are out there for you to talk to me throughout the week. You get micro adjustments throughout the week. We have a tracker that tracks, what you get on every quiz. So that way we can see it on one page. And then, we have check-ins all the time. We quiz, we break down NCLEX style questions together. And, I have a very, very good outcome with those. Me coaching over the last 5 years, I've coached 125 students. Oh, wow. 125 students inside of my coaching and mentoring, because it is a one-on-one. It's not a group thing. And out of the 125, I believe 7 were unsuccessful.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So can you tell me like any success stories or any personal testimonies from one of your clients, anything that they told you, anything of praise, anything like that?
The one student that does come to mind is
Okay.
Stacy. She actually found me on Instagram and we were talking back and forth. And Stacy's story is a little bit unique. Stacy became an LPN, but Stacy took the NCLEX PN exam 4 times and she passed it on her 4th time. So she had a lot of test anxiety. And then she went to go get her RN degree. But Stacy took that exam 11 times.
Wow.
She took the RN exam 11 times. And I know Stacy's not going to mind me telling her story because she's already told her story. But then Stacy sought me out and was just like, hey, I would really love some help. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm already working as an LPN. Can you please help me? And I was like, sure. And so we broke some stuff down. I told her that she needs to unlearn everything that she's learned as an LPN and start thinking like an RN. And she was just like, you're right. I can't believe I didn't see that, so on and so forth. So we worked together for a little over 30 days. It was about 34 days. And it was December of 2023 is when she took her exam. And she passed it on her 12th attempt. She had a lot of family things going on, a lot of, doubting in herself during her journey to try to get there and get that RN license. And then all it took was just one person to just continuously say that they believe in what they're doing and that it's okay for you to be unsuccessful, but it's not okay for you to stay there if it's worth something that you want to have. And I was very lucky and blessed that Stacy allowed for me to be on that journey with her. And, now she's a full-fledged RN out there. I think now she's in her soft nurse era. She's not even working bedside no more. I think she's doing like post office nursing or occupational.
Oh, okay.
She's doing something nice out there.
Okay.
So shout out to Stacy. Shout out to her.
All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and close here. Kevin, where can people find you?
So you guys can find me at my website, thebootnurse.com. You can find my book. You can find all of my courses over there on that website. But you can also find me on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook, and as well on YouTube. That name is The Boot Nurse. I upload videos over there almost daily. So make sure you guys go over there, subscribe, give me a follow, and come along with me on this journey.
Awesome. Hey, Kevin, man, appreciate your time, man. Appreciate your time today.
I appreciate you inviting me. We got to do this again.
Absolutely. All right, family. Once again, thanks for tuning in with your Wakanda RN. And family, I'll check with you next time. Love you.